Hi, beautiful people. It's Sarah Willoughby. I'm so passionate about breaking the silence surrounding infertility. And today I want to share part of my story, part of the most difficult part of my journey through infertility. I went through one and only one IVF cycle, and unfortunately, it went disastrously wrong. And I'm not telling you this story to scare you. I'm not telling you this story to put you off going through IVF, because for the majority of people, it's safe, it's fine, and it is your best possible way to have a baby. And look at how many IVF babies have been born since 1978. I think it's an incredible procedure. But for me, going through IVF was the turning point in my life, both in terms of having a child and also a sort of spiritual awakening, I guess, and changing my life moving forward. So in 2009, I'd gone over to Norway to go through IVF, and I was currently living in the UK, but we'd had a lot of trouble with the system, the healthcare system over there, and we lost a bit of confidence and wanted to try something different. So we decided to go over to Norway and have a holiday at the same time and sort of try and deal with that 2-week wait the best that we could. Unfortunately, because I have polycystic ovarian syndrome and because I was also under 35, I was at an increased risk of overstimulation. However, I took the odds, I took the chances. Statistically speaking, less than 1% of IVF cycles end up in overstimulation. So I figured that I should be okay, right? So it was my best chance to have another baby, to hold a sibling for my 3-year-old son in my arms and to try and complete my family. And that biological urge was much greater than any fear that I had around the risk that it could go wrong. The first inclination that I had that something wasn't quite right was when I started to get a bit of pain in my stomach, started to feel a bit of sort of discomfort, but was reassured and wasn't too concerned. But when I went to Norway and I had my ultrasound to see what was going on before they did the egg collection, there were 30 follicles on my ovaries, which is a huge number. The egg collection went forward, which I was very relieved about, because I figured that even if it didn't work out and we couldn't go through to the embryo transfer stage, that at least we would have some frozen embryos and that our journey to Norway wouldn't be wasted. But what happened was a very frightening and rapid deterioration of my health and well-being. Once the follicles had been removed through the egg collection, they decided that there was too great a risk to go ahead with the transfer, and I went home to rest. The follicles started to fill with fluid, and that fluid started to leak into different parts of my body. I had a couple of drainages, a couple of procedures where they drain the fluid from your abdomen, and that was exceptionally painful. I thought that would be okay and that would be the end of it, but unfortunately I got sent to hospital and naively thought that I'd just be there one night and then I'd be sent home. But what transpired was this gradual shutdown of each of my organs. And for those of you that don't know, when you go through overstimulation, they can't actually stop the process. They can only manage the symptoms. So for me, I overstimulated, and then unfortunately my body hyperstimulated, which was very serious. And I ended up in intensive care. My kidneys had stopped working. I wasn't producing urine. I had fluid on my lungs and I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was drowning, like I was gasping for my last breath. I'd put on 20 kilograms of fluid and I looked like I was already 7 months pregnant. And that had happened just within about 48 hours. I was at a huge risk of blood clots and I had stockings on to prevent blood clots. I couldn't really move very well. I could only get out of bed when I absolutely had to go to the toilet. But I had a catheter inserted and I could see that my body wasn't producing any urine whatsoever. So everything was just filling up inside me. The pain, I can't even begin to describe. The physical pain, the emotional pain was just unbelievable. I hope I never experience that level of pain again before I die, because morphine didn't even touch the surface of my pain. It brought no relief. My back was so incredibly sore from having to support this massive weight gain that had happened in such a short period of time. When I went for my chest x-ray and they determined that I had fluid on my lungs, it also showed that I had an enlarged heart. And I think it was at that point that I really started to wonder whether this was it for me. I was having about 4 blood tests a day, and all the tests were coming back and they were getting worse and worse. And there really wasn't anything that they could do. It was just a case of treating each symptom as it came up and hoping that my body recovered. Eventually your body does reverse that process, but it's just a waiting game in terms of how long. In the meantime, I lay in a hospital bed that became an abortion clinic for young girls who were coming in with their boyfriends and their mums and having the tablet inserted inside themselves, and then they would bleed all over the hospital room and then go home again. And the next day, the next lot of girls would come in and go through the same process. That was very confronting for me. It felt like an ironic joke that, you know, God had put the wrong baby in the wrong body, and here was I looking like I was heavily pregnant and wasn't, but that was all I wanted in the world. And there were these girls who were at a completely different stage in their lives, that it wasn't right for them. And there was no judgment from me in that whatsoever. I understood, but it just made it really hard. So there was a lot of emotional pain in that hospital stay, as well as the physical pain and the mental pain. When my body finally started to heal itself and the process started to reverse itself, the first sign of that was when urine started to be collected in the catheter box, and it was very exciting. I never thought I'd get so excited about seeing urine. Anyway, that night one of the consultants came and spoke to me, and she put her hand on my leg and she looked into my eyes and she said, "You've been very lucky." And she looked away and she had tears in her eyes, and so did I. I knew what she was telling me. I had been incredibly lucky that my body had been able to cope with everything that had been thrown at it. My life has never been the same since that point in time, because I realized I had been given a second chance at life. And not everybody is that lucky. We know that we face our own mortality, but we don't always live as though that is the reality. So this spiritual awakening that unfolded for me led me to some amazing places and some amazing experiences, which I'll continue to share with you in my next videos. So why have I told you this? Again, I want to reiterate, I haven't told you this to scare you from having IVF. I've told you this to share with you what can happen, and that you know when something doesn't feel right within your body. Don't be afraid to speak out. Don't be afraid to ask for extra tests and checks. Listen to what your body is telling you, because it's giving us messages all the time. And when we understand that connection between our mind, body, and spirit, we can really tune in to what it is that we need to do for ourselves to help ourselves on all levels and in all aspects of this incredibly difficult journey that is dealing with infertility. I am sending you so much love, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.